Hey guys, Hannah here with Current Designs, and today we're going to go over the CSS grid layout, how to use it, when to use it, and just the basics of it, all in less than 5 minutes. So let's get started. Um, as you can see here, I have CodePen pulled up, which is a great resource. I'm going to link it all down below, so please go check it out. But it's a great way to use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript all together on one screen just using a website. So I already have gotten started and I have created a couple different divs for my different types of information. Um, and I've gotten started with my CSS actually making this grid container information. But as you can see, I started by making a giant div starting here on line 1, which is going to encompass everything, all of my text, guys. In this div, I have under the class of grid container. And then everything else is just covered with these smaller divs, which are going to make up the inside of my grid container. So that's where I'm going to put down all of my information in my text, as you can see here on the screen. This is my div class for contact info, and you can see it showing up right here. So the important part of a grid is using the CSS elements for it. So I made my biggest thing that's going to encompass everything is under the class grid container. And then if you look over into my CSS, I have grid container and some elements or attributes of it. The biggest, most important one is that you write display grid. This is going to actually make it a grid because your class names mean nothing to the computer. It's just another name. So writing display grid is actually going to change it into that grid format. And then you can choose how many columns you want, how many rows you want, and things like that. So here, as you can see, I have 3 columns. You could kind of see them here with a 1, 2, 3. And I chose how big or wide I wanted them to be. And then I also chose 3 rows. So you have my top row here, my second row here, and my third row here with the leadership. And you can see I also chose the sizing on those as well. I don't have a grid gap in right now, but grid gaps are really important to make sure you're spacing out stuff. Like it almost looks like my UXPA information is butting into my ZoomBot information. So if I wanted, I could just make this a short little 20, and that would back things up a little bit, just give it more spacing around the edges. And then you're going to go in and name what you want your grid template areas, what you want your grid template areas to be. So right here it says I have blank and then contact info and then contact info 2. So that starts with blank here, contact info and contact info 2. And then I start down with my category 1, my category 1 info, and my category 1 info 2. And I do that the third time with my third row here at the bottom. And then I just go through and I'm going to list everything as a grid area. And by doing that, I'm saying I want these little areas to be inside of my larger grid container, which is that big div. And you can see here, now I have my div classes that are this like contact info. So that's going to place everything you want into that div. Divs are really great for making things like resumes or anything that you want almost a table aspect of, but grids are amazing because you can edit how large or short you want them to be, whereas a table is going to be a little more strict on that. The other great thing about a grid is that you can change the where you want everything to be a lot easier than in a table. If you're just getting started on grids, I would recommend going to layoutit.com. And this is a really great way that you just set up where you want, how wide you want your grid to be, how big or small, and then it's going to actually edit it in this HTML and CSS, which you can copy on over and just place right into your CodePen if you want to. It's a really great tool. I 10 out of 10 would recommend using CSS grids. Um, Good luck, guys, and keep coding.